And good evening, folks, and welcome to another edition of the Pelican Sports Report. What a softball playoff tournament it has been. I am Doug Gann with 446 Sports, bringing you the dash for Frasch, and we're joined by our friend, as always, from Clean's Corner, Mike Coppage. Mike, welcome aboard.
Thank you, Doug. Good to be here again.
Look, have you been – it's about 50-50, I'd say. I'm getting a lot of people that say, man, your picks are great. And I'm getting about 50% of the people that say, I don't know what I'm talking about. Are you seeing that?
Like I told you in a message one day, I'm kind of a loner, a shy person. Just kind of himself. So I don't really get any feedback, which is fine. That's just fine with me.
Look, I can tell you, the words introvert and Doug don't really fit in. So we have a good time. Chuck, you may check our Facebook feed. It looks like it's having struggles. So if you'll check that on there. But as a reminder, if you're watching wherever you're at, you can jump on and leave us a comment. If we make a pick that you don't like, just tell us about it. So, Mike, let's look back at the regional round, and maybe you had a pick that you liked that didn't come through. Maybe you had one that you liked that says, hey, I'm there. Or maybe you had a standout player. Let's review the regional round.
I think a pick that went well for me was North Vermilion to upset our way. They played last year, and they played again this week, and North Vermilion beat them easily, 8-0. And so I'll let you know if I'm going to go with North Vermilion over Assumption here shortly.
Look, that's coming up. We saw Grace Christian last night. They're the defending champs in Class B. Well, it was Division 5 last year, and they played a very solid, very competitive Fairview team. And after a 92-minute rain delay, Grace Christian really took care of business. Riley Guillot, no-hitter. She threw that. She homers in the first inning. Grace Christian looks like they're rolling. They've got a big matchup with Hicks this week. We'll talk about that in a minute, too. But the big matchup that I think I'm looking at is Menard and St. Fred's, and I know we'll talk about that as well. But what do you see? Maybe Division I. Sam Houston rolled along. North DeSoto rolled. Calvary did. All the chalk rolled.
Yeah, the heavy favorites won. I think I believe everyone in the top 25, the most recent top 25, won, other than Hahnville, which lost by 1 run to East Ascension.
Look, East Ascension is one of those teams that you better keep an eye on too. I looked back at them, and that might be my upset alert pick, because that's a low seed or a high seed. First of all, let's get that. If it's the 1, 2, or 3, is that the high seed or the low seed?
I see sports writers use it, both ways. I usually say I'll say top seed if I'm in in a pick.
That is so very politically correct of you, Mike.
Well, if someone is, say, seeded number 2 versus the number 15, I won't call the number 2 the higher seed, but I also see people call that a lower seed.
Absolutely. Look, it has been such a tremendous tournament already. We've seen some upsets. We've seen a team with a bigger number beat a team with a smaller number. Got an opportunity to see some Class C softball, some Class B. We saw Calvin yesterday, defending state champs. They hit the ball well. That's a secret team to watch out for also.
Yeah, Calvin beat St. Joseph's, as we both were projecting.
Correct.
And so they have number 1 Harrisonburg next, right?
They do. And, because the 1 plays the 8-9 winner in there. And let me tell you, that's going to be as good of a Class C matchup as you'll find.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and I'll go ahead and divulge. I like Calvin in that one. Harrisonburg was the number 20 last year, got knocked out in the first round. Calvin, I believe, lost to Quitman in the quarters last year.
Quitman, who goes on to win the state title.
Yeah, so Calvin has Haley Martin back, and they've been deep in the playoffs recently. So when we get to that one, you won't have to ask me my pick because I like Calvin over Harrisonburg.
Okay, well, let's start off with Class C then. Let's flip this on. The last time we went 1 through 4, select and non-select, B and C after that. Let's start off with C, and let's jump right into Harrisonburg and Calvin. Harrisonburg's number 1 seed. They win 10-7 over Plainview. How come they're not your pick to move on?
I like Calvin's deep playoff experience, and I believe Haley Martin was a freshman last year. Yeah, it's easy for me to get facts wrong. I try to keep up with more than my brain can hold. But the fact that Calvin went to the quarterfinals last year and played Quitman, brought back one of their top players there, that's the basis for my upset pick there.
Well, they had 2 big home runs in the game that we saw, and they really swing the bat in this one. And as you look down in Class C softball, I just don't know. Calvin is one of those teams that probably is a lower seed that you don't want to match up. I also take them to beat Harrisonburg, who barely won at Plainview 10-7.
Yeah, so, I'm with you there.
So look at us agreeing on things. Those picks that we agree on, I think we did okay on. So Saline and Summerfield, I don't know a lot about them. I know Saline wins a close one. Summerfield was all over Evans. What do you think?
Yeah, I'll be the first to tell you I don't know about every team in the bracket. And the smaller schools, the information is a little bit tougher to come by. And this one, on paper, to me, Summerfield, they're a basketball power. A lot of schools, basketball stars also play softball. I mean, not just small schools, but large schools as well. And I'm figuring that some of Summerfield's star players probably play softball as well. And I'm going to go with them in this game.
Going with the athletes, we're 2 for 2. We both take Summerfield in this one. And in the smaller schools, athletes that play a lot of the sports, they're competitive and they get deep and they understand what it takes to get there. And at this point in time, you've got to understand what it takes to move on to the next round. So I agree with you there. Both of us, I think, had more par. Did we both have E-Barb last week?
I'm pretty sure I went with E-Barb because I'm a Sabine Parish high school graduate, and so if I'm kind of on the fence on something, I'll go to my roots or go to.
You did take Mandy though, and that was a big one for you. Can they beat Claiborne Christian this week?
I think Claiborne Christian wins this one.
Claiborne Christian as well. They've played solid. They win 9-0 over False River. I think they win it as well. Northside Christian and Starks. I take the chalk Northside Christian there also.
Yeah, Northside Christian lost 5 of 6 to close out the regular season, but they were playing some tough teams. They played their crosstown rival. Well, it's not a rival, but crosstown opponent. Notre Dame lost to them only 10-6. So Northside Christian, they tuned up very well for the playoffs, and so I got to see them play at Kaplan. I tend to repeat myself, so forgive me, but I like Northside Christian.
No, but you're right about that. You say they lose 5 of 6, but it's to LCA, it's to Kaplan, it's to the Lady Pios of Notre Dame. Beauchamp, they beat St. Ed's, and they lose to David Thibodeau, who is an upstart program as well. And how do you pick a team that has lost 5 of 6? Well, it's the opponents they play, and it's getting them ready. I like Northside Christian as well. So it's hard to believe that we both on the same side in all of our picks right there. So maybe things will change up in Class B. Let's take a look at Class B and Quitman and Holden.
Yeah, I picked Holden last week, but I'm going to be hard pressed to pick against Quitman at any juncture in the playoffs. So I know that there's a potential Quitman Grace Christian game next round, but at least at this round, I'm going with Quitman.
There you go. I'll take Quitman as well. In this round, there's a lot to go as they move on. And that brings us to the game that you talked about, Grace Christian and Hicks. Grace Christian behind Raleigh Guillot Gio throws a no-hitter. She hits a home run. She singles in the winning run last night. It was just a big night after 92 minutes of rain delay, and every song except one that involved rain, I think the DJ played in the stadium. It was a long night. We were able to cover it for you on 446 Sports, and Grace Christian hits the ball well. Hicks was in the house watching the game, but I don't think that anybody gets past Grace Christian in this round. Riley Gio is as advertised, and I think that Grace Christian takes care of Hicks.
Yeah, I agree with you. I found it intriguing that the two schools are located close to each other, but it looks like they didn't play during the regular season. I thought that was kind of interesting.
Well, it's probably 45 minutes away, and that's teams that normally play. But I think they were looking at this type of a matchup as well. Who knew that they would be in a quarterfinal round? But one of those teams, both of those deserve to be in Sulphur. Only one of them are going to come out. And your reward for winning that game, a semifinal game against Quitman. Wow, that's tough. Anacoco and Zwali.
I'm going to go with Anacoco. That one, they have some really impressive wins. I mean, and one of the most impressive ones being, I think it was 1-0 shutout against Pine Prairie.
Look, if you shut Pine Prairie out, that's a battle in there. I saw Grace Christian beat them 3-1, and it was such a tremendous ball game, and we covered that on 446 Sports as well. But you look up and down their schedule, they've played some good teams. They beat Fairview, the same team that Grace Christian beat the other night. But it's hard pressed to go against Anacoco, so I'm taking the chalk here again, Anacoco to win. And Family Community and Stanley.
We both picked Stanley last week, and I like them to make it back to Sulphur. I mean, they easily handled a good Oak Hill team. I like what Family Community is doing up in the Winsboro area in baseball and softball, and they are in the quarterfinals as a 10 seed. But I like Stanley to reach the state tournament again.
Look, you say handled. They beat them 18-3. That's a 15-run rule game in 3 innings. And when you do that, that's pretty good, because Oak Hill was led by several seniors in that one and not able to hold serve. So we'll go over, and now let's jump into Select Division 1. This is one of our favorites. I know that the Lady Rebels of Pineville and North Shore Mike is not here to defend himself, but they play Archbishop Chappelle. And I know you like Chappelle.
Well, yeah, they have I was told they have no seniors, if I recall correctly, and their
Who's that?
Chappelle.
Oh, okay. I thought, yeah.
So they had Taylor Allen, a freshman, had 3 doubles against Ponchatoula. They are in the quarterfinals for the 5th straight year. But the consensus among some knowledgeable people is that Pineville is up there, as possibly the best team in the state outside of Calvary Baptist. So I like Pineville to win.
Well, you look deep into that, and you look at Coach Allison Fry. She has had her team there year in and year out, and she's got that drive. There's no doubt about it. She's also got the big bat of Madeline Hall, and Madeline set a school record for home runs at Pineville this year in a single season. They got Birch in the circle. It's all Pineville in this all the time. Setting up what would be just a huge matchup in the second round, Tioga plays John Curtis. Can Tioga, the 5 seed, upset John Curtis?
Well, I was talking to someone at the Dominican versus Acadiana playoff game, someone from Dominican. He said, I don't know how Jerry Godfrey does it at John Curtis, but they have a Curtis. He called it the Curtis mystique, and I like John Curtis to win this one. They have a lot of speed at the top of the lineup, and if their first couple of girls can get on, they can cause you a lot of trouble. And I'm going to go with the Patriots.
If you'll remember, a year ago, Curtis is the team that knocked off the Lady Rebels in extra innings in that one. They beat them. I don't know if it was 10-8 or 9-7 or whatever it was, but they beat the Lady Rebels and knocked them out last year. In talking to Coach Brad Woodard, in talking and knowing the Lady Indians, I picked Tioga in this one to win. So I say that Tioga goes down there and upsets John Curtis. Alexandria and Mount Carmel.
Mount Carmel had lost several consecutive games before the playoff game against Captain Shreve, and they came out and got 18 hits in that one. So what I'm hearing is that people expect Mount Carmel to struggle when they go up against some elite pitching. So you know more about Alexandria's pitching than I do. I believe Alexandria is going to win this game. What do you think about Alexandria's pitching?
Their pitching is good. They've got two pitchers really that stand strong. Milder came in relief in the last game and really shut out. I think she doesn't allow a hit maybe in that, maybe one if she did. But the fact is they don't lean on one pitcher, and that makes a difference. Now, they were shut out and no hit in their final game of the season against Grant. We'll get to Grant later. But Coach Bellegarde and that group has them ready to go. Alexandria comes out. They put up a lot of runs in this game and don't allow many, and they knock off Mount Carmel. Your friends, you just saw Dominican and St. Thomas More. Can Dominican do it 2 weeks in a row?
I don't think so, but I'll tell you what, it's when you see some of these teams in person and realize that there's a lot of good teams, a lot of solid teams in the state. This is a number 10 seed in Dominican. They have a sub 500 record, but they've lost a lot of games to quality opponents by small margins. They have a ton of hitting. So, with St. Thomas More, their pitcher, Margaret Auger, she has shut some people down, and then she's also given up some hits in other games. So I like St. Thomas More. Their pitcher is not a senior, but they're a senior-laden team, and I like the Cougars. I like the Cougars to advance here.
I do too. I think that the season's work stands for itself, and I really believe St. Thomas More is rolling. I'm looking forward to a St. Thomas More Alexandria game. Brings back the days of football when those two battled each other, and I'm looking forward to that. I like Dominican a lot. I'm proud of what they did against Acadiana. It was another 10 that I picked, in that I love the 10 versus the 7, but I think that it's all St. Thomas More in this one. That will move us to Division II. And boy, they start heating up. This is one of our favorite ones. Division II of Select, Vanderbilt Catholic and David Thibodeau.
Yeah, I picked David Thibodeau to win against St. Michael. They have a losing record, but they won that game. But you already know that Vanderbilt Catholic is my pick in Division II Select. So I like the Terriers again.
Look, I don't know if you saw that we had Coach Justin Keys on, and he said, I appreciate North Shore Mike picking LaRanger to beat us. That's all great. But and that being his pick, but everybody in this division is chasing Vanderbilt Catholic. They are that good this year. Vanderbilt Catholic rolls in this one. LaRanger and Buckeye. And this is one that I know that North Shore Mike is watching, because he picked LaRanger to be his pick for the lock of it all. And that gave Coach Justin Keys and the Buckeye Lady Panthers a little bit of bulletin board material. Tell me about this game.
I'm impressed with LaRanger's record, but I'm not entirely sold on their schedule. And I am very impressed that Buckeye has 4 everyday players hitting over 400. They're on a long winning streak right now, other than a loss to Opelousas Catholic in the last game of the year. To me, LaRanger's schedule is suspect. I like Buckeye to win.
Look, I'm gonna get myself in a lot of trouble if I don't pick Buckeye, because it's hometown, it's on our network, it's all of that. but that's not why I'm picking them. I'm picking them because Justin Keys knows how to get it done. He's got a group of ladies there that continue to play and fight and win. And I take Buckeye, not because of the hometown, but because they're a solid pick. Buckeye over LaRoger and North Shore Mike, your pick is gone. Hannon and St. Charles.
To me, this is the real toss-up. Yeah, number 3, Hannon, number 6, St. Charles. I see this one as going possibly either way. Adrian Arnett had 2 homers for St. Charles in their 16-0 win over Haynes, and pitcher Riley Perilou was 3 for 3 at the plate. I have Hannon ranked higher, and so for that reason, I'll go with Riley Williams and the Hawks to win.
Look, I like that too. The unfortunate thing about this game is they're fighting to go get beat by E.D. White next game in the semifinals. So it's a toss-up here. And did I give a pick away early? Maybe I did. But I like Hannon to beat St. Charles. But neither of them beat E.D. White next time in Sulphur. But they made it to Sulphur anyway. I take, I just like E.D. White a lot. So let's go to E.D. White and look at them.
Yeah, well, Patrick Taylor's in the quarterfinals for the 3rd straight year. I mean, they're going to push through at some point, and maybe it'll be next year because their star pitcher is a junior. But this year, I don't think is going to be the year that they go to the semis. And I like E.D. White, and of course, E.D. White lost 3-2 to Vanderbilt Catholic and district play, and a rematch is something a lot of people want to see in the finals.
Look, a lot of people, except those people in DeVille, they don't want to see that matchup because that means they're not there. So that's a good look at that bracket. Well, I can't wait till our Sulphur picks. These are really going to be good. But let's take a look at Select Division 3, and that's one of my favorites, Calvary Baptist and Bunkie. I like Bunkie so much. You see what they did to Dunham? They avenged their football team's loss, put up 21 points in that game.
Yeah, and Dunham came in with a much better record, 14-4 coming in. And I saw someone from Bunkie posted on the message board about going into the playoffs, how they were just a few points behind Dunham in the power ratings, and they had played a lot more games than Dunham. And that I believe it was 21-5 or something like that. But
it was a 14-run inning that did it for them. So here's an interesting caveat to take from that. Bunkie's head coach, Coach Kate Hillman. Bunkie's football coach, Coach Jimmy Hillman, husband and wife. She says, stay back. I'll get it for you. We'll go take care of Dunham. And they do it in style in this one. But they're going to Calvary next week or on Friday. Do they have any chance of going in there and beating Calvary?
Well, we've seen some teams give Calvary close games in Sulphur, so anything is possible when you step between the lines. But obviously, Calvary is the highest ranked team nationally in polls, and with good reason. I mean, they have it all.
Yeah, I think the matchup here favors Calvary in this. I think the youth at Bunkie hurts them in this one. Calvary's young. I understand that, but they've got 2 solid pitchers in Anderson and Willis, and I just think that they roll through Bunkie in this one. And Coach and the Lady Panthers, I'm sorry about that, but you ran into a buzzsaw in Calvary. Jules Sumner, you've been high on them in Parkview Baptist.
Yeah, Jules Sumner, I've mentioned this several times. I guess I should be wary of putting too much stock in one game, but I'm impressed that Jules Sumner beat LaRonger 14-4. Now I haven't looked into the details behind it. Sometimes there are circumstances that play into something like that. But Jules Sumner having a great year in their first year in Select. Parkview Baptist, they're very young. They're trying to get to the state tournament for the first time since 2019. I believe Robin Fanbro wrote, and one of their top hitters is a 7th grader, Amy Golick, and power hitter, and she also pitches. And 3 of their pitchers are in middle school, so it's a very young Parkview Baptist team, and that makes me want to pick Jules Sumner, but I'm going to go with Parkview Baptist.
Look, I'm going to go with what you all along you've told me how good Jules Sumner is, so I'm going to take them right here. One thing I want to do, I want to take a little bit of privilege here, and we're going to jump down into select four if we can. You and I have talked a lot about Menard, and we've talked a lot about St. Fred's. We've talked a lot about the way that they've done. And I've got a special guest that's joining us tonight, and it's the head coach of the Menard Lady Eagles, Brad Turney. Coach, welcome aboard.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you having me on.
Look, Coach Brad, Mike Coppage is up there with us too, so say hi.
Hey, Mike, how you doing? I've watched a lot of your stuff. It's nice to finally meet you.
Oh, thanks, Coach. I appreciate it.
So we're visiting with the 5-2A district champions, undefeated. I know them real well because we get to cover them on a daily basis. Coach, tremendous season for you ladies, but I mentioned it after the last game that you won that got you ready for St. Fred's, and you were just like you are right now. I don't think I've ever seen you as focused as you are right now. What's going on?
It's the time to be that way. I mean, we've been working for this for the last 8 months. I mean, we talked about this the other day. The girls seem like they're finally focused in on that big goal as well. We still like to have fun. We cut up at practice. We still do that, but we know what the prize is at the end at this point. We know how important each individual game is, each individual inning, pitch, whatever. So I think we're in the right spot mentally. So it may be a little bit different than what we've approached things most of the year, but we're still the same team.
You've got such a dynamic of it, though. You've got the solid senior leader in Sophie Giordano. You've got some young players. You've got sophomores and juniors. Belle Drago is there. Kaylee Methvin, your pitcher, who was a District 5 2A MVP. You've got a great cohesive mixture. Tell me about them a little.
We do. The leadership we got out of Sophie this year has been super surprising to me. I mean, we sat down at the beginning of the year. As soon as I got there, we talked about goals, what her goals were for her senior year, what her team goals were. And we talked about a state championship at that point. And from that moment, it's gone out from that and it's kind of grown the roots and it's kind of reached other players. And the beautiful thing about it is we have that mix from senior leadership down to 8th grade girls. I mean, you see, we got 2 8th graders starting with us most of the time. But the beautiful thing about that school is a lot of these girls can get in young. So by the time they're maybe freshmen, sophomores, they're already seasoned. They've already seen that postseason action. So it's a little bit different than regular girls stepping into a high school team at that young age and not maybe necessarily understanding what that stage is about.
Mike, what do you have?
Well, Coach, I see you played St. Frederick twice earlier in the season. I see it's listed as a wave. I didn't go into the LSHA site and look to see where exactly it was at. Was that at a tournament on a neutral side, or did you play in Monroe?
Well, there was a round robin at our place, and St. Frederick's and Rose Pine were supposed to come that weekend, and Rose Pine unfortunately had to drop out at the last minute, so we ended up playing a double dip with St. Fred's that day.
Yeah, it was at Menard.
Yeah, it was at our place.
So what are your thoughts on this matchup?
I really like it. Doug was there that day that we played St. Fred's. I'm not going to make any excuses. A loss is a loss, but we definitely were not firing on all cylinders that day. We had a rough couple days right there, rough couple games. So we're a lot different team than what St. Fred saw the last time. So I think the matchup's going to be quite different when we walk in there this weekend.
Coach, your move over from baseball to softball. You've been around softball your whole life, but you moved in from baseball to softball, played baseball, certainly professionally.
Mm-hmm.
What is the move like been in your first year as a softball coach?
It's been great. This is my second venture into softball. Like I told you earlier, I'd coached some travel ball before, but it was pre-high school level. It's like 12, 13, getting them ready for high school. But this is my first chance with the high school girls, and it's definitely been a change from the guys. I'll tell you that, because you're getting that time where the girls are changing, bodies are changing, so emotions are different. It's been different, but it's been fun. I'll tell you that. They've really accepted me in. It took a little while. They were a little standoffish at first, but once they opened their wings and let me in there with them, it's been a great time.
Coach, looking ahead at St. Fred's, that big game is coming up Saturday at 2:00.
Mm-hmm.
Creighton is there in the circle. She is a ULM commit going to ULM, the senior there. Avery Hauser in center field. How do you guys right the ship and come around out victorious when you take the trip up to Monroe Saturday?
Oh, we just got to attack them the same way we did. I mean, we've seen D1 commits this year. We saw Fontenot from Kinder, who's a Purdue commit, and I mean, she came out there and she threw the ball well. But we just got them in that right mindset that regardless of who's in the circle, we're going to keep our same attacking philosophy in the batter's box. And we know it's going to be a battle. We know she's tough, but we've got a great lineup as well. I mean, you know, we compiled over 300 hits on the season, so we've got some girls that can swing it. With Kaylee, like I said, she's back to 100%. So Hauser out in center field, she's a great hitter. But we're going to attack. We're going to attack. We're going to be smart about it. But I think we're going to have some success this weekend.
Two of the players that don't get a lot of the limelight, but are as good as they come, Bill Drago in left field and Emma Davis at second base. Tell me about them a little bit.
Those two are firing on all cylinders right now, and like you said, they're kind of unsung heroes of it. Belle Drago, she's a freshman, but she had all the starts last year as an eighth grader, so she did a great job, and she's already carried the brunt of the load in the outfield. But her hitting this year has completely turned around, and lately she's just been everything. Seems like she hits a barrel. Even her outs have been loud outs, and Emma, once we moved her over to second base and got her comfortable, I wanted to try to get her to take over that shortstop role because that's the hole we had at the beginning of the season. But I think it was a little much for her, and we kind of had a talk about it. And she wasn't shy about mentioning the fact that she was more comfortable at second base. And I think once we made that, she finally got into her own and she started playing the softball that she needed to play. So her and Sophie have been working well up the middle, and it's kind of freed her up. I mean, she's been hitting well all year. And she's so versatile. We had her in the leadoff spot for a while, and she's found a home in the 3-hole. But another one that's coming into her own at the right time.
Well, there you go. Mr. Clean, anything else for Coach Turney?
Yeah, one more question, Coach. What was your reaction to the Covenant Christian St. Frederick game? St. Fred's won, I believe 4-3.
I was surprised, but at the same time, everybody was kind of dealing with weather that game. So, I didn't get to see the game. All I saw was a score, so I don't know the details of what was going on. But I know it was a close game. But Covenant Christian's not somebody that you can easily look past. I mean, they might not have had a great seed this year, but that's always pretty a scrappy team. So they're always going to come in and fight.
Well, there you have it. Coach Turney, that is one of the games that we will cover on Saturday. We'll be up there in Monroe bringing you Menard and St. Fred's in that one. So we won't make a pick on it just to try to stay unbiased in that. But we're looking forward to a huge game. Should be very well watched in that one, Coach, and we'll see you Saturday.
Hey, looking forward to it, Mike. It was nice talking with you.
Likewise. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
There you go. A lot of comments rolling in, too. And your way to do that is just to click on it. Jenna Gatlin says, hey, fam, proud of y'all. Brad, of course she's proud of Coach Brad. Why wouldn't you be? So we're getting there. Got a question coming up, too. It says, what's our prediction on Grace? We'll get back to that in just a moment. I think both of us, so we picked Grace, didn't we?
Yes.
Yeah, so we'll get that up. Derek, we had actually had Grace in our second selection of it, too, and both of us thought that Grace Christian would hang in there and make another trip down to Sulphur. So there you have that. Let's get back over to where we were a moment ago before we – and thank you to Coach Brad Turney for joining us on here. I know Chuck's got it there, but let me see if I can get it back up. We had Jules Sumner, and you had Parkview, so we were Notre Dame, the Lady Pios, and North Lake Christian. What do you say?
So North Lake Christian's coming off their 11 seed, coming off an upset of number 6 Houma Christian, which reached Sulphur last year, but lost their star pitcher and star hitter to transfer to Southside. I think North Lake Christian pitcher Abigail Willie, she struck out 7 of the first 9 batters against Houma Christian. I think this is one of those games that might be closer than people expect, but I do like Notre Dame to win.
I like Notre Dame as well. They've just, and I'm the farthest from tradition and history because I think this year stands on its own, but I really believe that Notre Dame takes care of business here in that one. And it's at their home park there in Crowley. I think they take care of it. Pope John Paul II and Darbone Woods Charter. PJP II, we had their coach on back in week 1. North Shore Mike loves them. Is there any way that they beat Darbone Woods?
Darbone Woods debuted in the rankings this week, and I'm very high on this team. Jolie Bennett has been a thorn in the side of pitchers since
forever
in the 7th grade, and so
right.
She's just in the 9th grade now. And a lot of other Darbone Woods players are young, so I mean, this is a program that's going to just keep continuing to get better and better. I mean, to me, Darbone Woods is an elite program amongst any class. I like them to win.
Darbone Woods Charter is going to find their way into that championship game against Calvary. I know I'm jumping ahead a couple of weeks, but they are really, really good, and they're going to find their way in that championship game. Do they go out there and rule PJP II? No, they don't. Do they take care of business? Yes, they do. They find themselves in a big matchup against Notre Dame next week, but I really believe that it's Darbone Woods Charter in this one. Mike, that'll take us back into D4 Select, Division 4. We talked about Holy Savior Menard and St. Fred's. Haven't made that pick yet, but let's stick with one of the teams that you really like a lot, Catholic Point Capee and Riverside Academy.
Well, it's interesting you say that because I went on record earlier today on a message board picking number 8 over number 1 here.
Oh, my.
And I do acknowledge it will be an upset. And the Catholic Point Capee, they have the pedigree. They've been there the last 2 years at the final bell. I like Riverside, Olivia St. Pierre, and Cameron. Again, sometimes I misspell names, so I definitely will say something wrong. Cassian, Cameron, her first name's Cameron, left-handed pitcher.
Yeah.
Morgan Landry, I believe, for Catholic Point Capee. I'm picturing this as a low-scoring game, and I'm going to take the upset.
So when you took Beauchamp to beat South Terrebonne as an upset, we know how that turned out. Is Catholic Point Capee saying, all right, pick against us, we're okay? Or is Riverside Academy saying, we got a shot?
Well, I just I feel like Division 4 Select is similar to Division 3 non-select, and that the top 8 is extremely strong. Now, I have to add a caveat that my pick to come out of nowhere was number 7 Sacred Heart, and they got beat by Glenbrook. So obviously, it's not just the top 8 in Division 4 Select that's good. Obviously, number 10 is pretty dang good too. But sometimes you just have to go with a gut feeling for an upset. Beauchamp had a deceptive record because they had a bunch of forfeits, and they also used to go deep into playoffs. So
Right.
people were chastising me, saying that's not even going to be an upset if Beauchamp wins. Well, South Terrebonne put it on them pretty good, and I was met with resistance with this pick as well. But I'm on the record with it, so I'm sticking by it.
Look, when you put it out on a public forum, you get ready for it. Anybody that, and I know the forum you're talking about too, and those folks in there are brutal. They're brutal. I'm telling you, it's tough on there. But I'm going to take the chalk. I think Catholic Point Capee wins this one, and it sets up a huge game. The winner, and oh gosh, I'm going to go on this one. Look, I'm going to stand up and say it. The winner of that semifinal matchup, you see it on our screen that's right there. The winner of Menard and St. Fred, Catholic Point Capee, wins the state title in this division. So I'm taking Catholic Point Capee here to move on and play in Sulphur. Menard, St. Fred, what say you? There he is.
It's hard to beat a team. Can you hear me?
Yes, I got you.
My feed looks to be frozen on the screen, but
I can hear your audio. It'll catch up.
Sounds good. Well, it's hard to beat a team. It's hard to beat a team twice, not to mention 3 times. And coach, I'm not sure what the details are behind it, but it sounds like there were, some other factors involved when St. Fred's won the doubleheader over Menard. So Menard's been on fire lately, and I'm going to go with the Eagles with the road victory.
Look, I am calling this game myself on Saturday, and I have ties to both sides of it. So I am not going to make a pick on this one for fear of aggravating someone that has hired me to do this. So we're going to pass on that one. But I did tell you that the winner of the state title comes out of the top of the bracket. So whether it's Point Capay, whether it's Menard, whether it's St. Fred, whether it's Riverside, this half of the bracket wins the title. That's my thoughts, and I'll leave that right there. St. John, Ascension Catholic.
But St. John, number 6 seed, beat number 3 seed Ascension Catholic in district. That was a long time ago. It wasn't a recent game, but it was an 11-9 shootout. And I'm going to go with St. John to win again. I mean, they have some talent. South Alabama commit junior Charlie Newman for starters. And I'm going to go with an upset here as well.
Look, if anybody hasn't seen St. John play, they need to go back and take a look at it too. The power out of Ascension Catholic, Opelousas Catholic, Sacred Heart, those groups. I mean, that's what's got the rankings where they are. I like St. John in this one also. Glenbrook, the Apaches have been upsetting people all year long. Can they do it again against Opelousas Catholic?
Well, it obviously could happen because they beat Sacred Heart, which won the district with Opelousas Catholic and Catholic Point Capay in it. And I will be the first to tell you, I was shocked that Sacred Heart got upset. Like I said, it goes to show you anything can happen once you step onto the field. But to me, at this point, Opelousas Catholic is the favorite to repeat as state champions. They got Ashley Little back. Their shortstop is great. They've been to Sulphur years in a row, and to me, Opelousas Catholic is the favorite right now.
Way back about 6 months ago, there was one softball team that was the first one to follow what we were doing here on 446 Sports that was outside of our area. And I said back then, you stick with me and I'm going to stick with you. That was the Apaches of Glenbrook. I'm taking them right here in this one to beat the defending champions, Opelousas Catholic. Glenbrook, go out there and make me proud. I know that's a big, big step on there, but we're doing that. Let's see. Where are we going to now? Up. Chuck, where do you have us? You got D1 non-select? I guess he does. We'll go back here. We'll jump up to D1 non-select. And Mike, you're still frozen on the video, but we can hear your audio. So Sam Houston and Live Oak, and as the great Lee Corso would say on Sam Houston, not so fast, my friend. Live Oak's playing pretty good.
So Live Oak upset number 1 Dutchtown last year as the number 8 seed. So I mean, they're right in there. They're right there in their wheelhouse. Sam Houston was engaged in a close game with number 16 Natchitoches Central until they won it at the end. But Sam Houston they've been up there with Calvary Baptist as one of the elite teams this season, and I am going to pick them to win again.
Live Oak won their round 1 game 8-4 against Chalmette. They won their regional round 8-4 against West Monroe. They're the 8th seed in here. Do they go in and beat Sam Houston 8-4? I don't think so. Sam Houston rolls in this one. It's a big win. I think they knock the rust off in the Natchitoches Central game. They come out here and win by 5 or 6 runs in this one. East Ascension, Santa Mont, the Gators, and East Ascension. What do you have?
Well, this is an Ascension Parish, backyard brawl. These two schools, I don't think they like each other much at all. They played twice in the regular season. St. Amant won both times by at least 5 runs. St. Amant, they won 3 state titles. They were down 2-0 to Southside, got a lot of walks, came back and won. That tells me they're patient and confident. I know East Ascension, they have a lot of heavy lumber in their lineup, but it's just too difficult for me to pick against St. Amant with their history of winning. I don't think they've played a road playoff game, in forever. According to, I read an article in the Advocate earlier today.
Since Addison Jackson was there, and she's off to Boston College now. That was with Santa Mont. And Santa Mont beating Southside. Southside had positioned themselves regardless of the record, with the people that came in to that program, they were set to make a deep run in this. Santa Monica just sat there and took care of that. I think they take care of East Ascension here as well. This is a matchup, Mike, that you and I looked at off the air, Dutchtown and West Washita. West Washita, a lower seed, but man, they hit the softball well. How did they do against Dutchtown?
You know, that was one of my upset picks last week, was West Washita over Airline. And you know, Dutchtown, like we just discussed, got upset last year in the quarterfinals. I don't see that happening again this year. I mean, Dutchtown, they have won a lot of games in a row, and I see them continuing to win in the quarterfinals.
I think there's something special going on in the northeast part of the state. West Washita comes out of a big district. They hit the softball well. Very excited about them, and I think they take down Dutchtown in this one. That is my upset special of the week. Cue the fancy. Well, we don't have the fancy graphic or anything like that, but I say that West Washita takes down Dutchtown in this one. Walker and Benton. We were tied up on that Walker and Sulphur game as well. Walker wins that one 5-3. Benton in another close one. Who comes out of this one unscathed?
I'm going with an upset special here. Number 7 Walker. I'm going to take them to win. You know, they cooled off a red hot Sulphur team that had beat Notre Dame recently and had won a lot of it. Sulphur's only loss in a long time was a 2-0 loss to Kaplan. But you know, Walker, we talked about Alexis Petrie last week, the sophomore. She hit a home run against Sulphur. Her arm's been giving her some problems, but she was able to pitch, I believe, an inning in a third or an inning in 2/3, and was effective in the circle. Benton, I know it's just one game, but I can't shake the fact that they got beat 19-4 by Sterlington in the last game of the season, and then it, like you said in a Facebook post, it's survive and advance. But the 4-2 win over Destrehan, I mean, that doesn't scream. It doesn't dispel me or prevent me from picking Walker to upset number 2 Benton.
Look, only because it is a seeding theme, and that's how the power rankings are. I don't call it an upset at all. Walker wins this one. I say that's it. You cannot get over losing 19-4 in your final game. I don't care what the situation is. You don't lose 19-4 and it not affect your brain in there. Walker wins this one and moves on, and you've got a 7-11 matchup in Sulphur. I said it right here. Division II. This is this is the Tim Whitman show. Does anybody knock off North DeSoto? Can Jennings and Jenna Morvant do it?
I think I whiffed on Jennings against South Terrebonne. I mean, North DeSoto is it is North DeSoto. I think everybody was surprised last year outside of Lutcher when
right
beat North DeSoto. But, just for one moment, I wanted to mention, in Division I non-select, I believe 5 of the teams are from District 5A.
Yeah.
So I mean that's pretty impressive. But anyway, North DeSoto, they brought back some great players from last year's team, and this is another team that's in the discussion as the potential top overall team in the state. And I certainly like the Griffins to advance.
Look, everything. North DeSoto has everything to like about them. I mean, they've got a coach that is storied in what he's done. He's won championships at every level and everywhere he's gone. They have such talent there. But in tournament action, when somebody gets hot, they tend to go deeper than people think they do. Jenna Morvant has allowed 5 hits in 14 innings. She swings the bat well. Venable is crushing the ball at Jennings. You heard it here first. Jennings upsets North DeSoto, and they go to Sulphur. How about that one?
Well, I was impressed last year when I went and covered Minden at North Vermilion, and I noticed that the North DeSoto coach was there, scouting them out. And a trip from North Dakota to North Vermilion High School. That's not like a short drive.
That's right.
Yeah. So hey, props to you on putting it out there. I'm going to go with the Griffins though.
Look, I'm laying it all down for it too. I say that Jennings and Jenna Moore, Van Venable and that group take care of business. Lutcher and Iota. I know you've been high on Iota.
I'm really high on both teams. To me, this Division II non-select, there's a drop off after the top 5. And Lutcher, the defending champs, they're 5, and Iowa was number 6. So they dropped out when North Vermilion beat them. To me, this is one of the best quarterfinals. Lutcher at Iota, they've been playing really well. Lutcher, they won 2 one-run games in the quarterfinals and semifinals last year before beating North Dakota by a few runs. And I'm going to go with Lutcher. I mean, they've proven they can win state, and they brought back some key pieces from that team. And so I'm going to go with the Bulldogs to win they're going to be in this area.
Okay, so I love the Lutcher pick, without a doubt. I love it. And they reached out to us today, and we had some conversation. That's great. I picked Cecilia to upset Iota last week. That was my lock. That was the one that was my sure winner. There wasn't no doubt that was going to make my winner. And Iota beats them 10-0 in that one. You think I could pick against Iota 2 weeks in a row? No. Iota takes care of Lutcher in this one. And I'm going to get so much grief for that. I know that it's a tough game to call, but I like Iota in this one. And that will take us. My stuff flipped around. Let me look at where we're at. The bottom half of the bracket. Assumption and North Vermilion.
This is going to be another upset pick for me. I'm not sure what was going on earlier in the season when North Vermilion lost some games, but they are thriving now. And Callie Gibson, she had a homer in the 8-0 win over Iowa, which was a favored seed on paper, and she had 17 strikeouts. And I'm going to go with the Griffins to upset Assumption.
So you're telling me that North Vermilion fell victim to the early season chaos, and that's why they've got the lower seed, but they take care of Assumption?
Well, I'm not sure. I don't know the details of why they lost some games earlier in the year that I would have expected them to win. Considering they were in Sulphur, but that Callie Gibson was an awesome pitcher and hitter last year. She's back. Emmy Kelly. I mean North Vermilion. I mean, obviously they're not your typical 11 seed. They went down. I mean, they went down to Iowa and just cruised past them 8-0. And North Vermilion, they know how to get to Sulphur, and I think they're going to do it.
I love pitching, and I love seeing teams that can put up goose eggs in this one. Assumption, man, they're good. They tooted. I don't think they scored enough runs in that. North Vermilion, they showed it at the plate against a great Iowa team. They beat them 8-0. I think as well, North Vermilion in this one. I think North Vermilion wins that one. And let me see. We've got – there she is. She's joined in with us all the way. And I don't know if she rode her four-wheeler here or not, Coach, but here's a big welcome to us. Let's get Coach Alicia Hebert from down in Pine Prairie here. Coach, do you have your mud boots on and all of that?
Unfortunately, I do not, because I'm super excited that our field is playable. And
look at that.
Yeah, Coach Cetus, he's always doing everything he can to help our program, and I don't know what I would do without him. But we just finished practicing, so I'm sorry I couldn't hop on sooner.
Well, and you told me you guys weren't going to be able to practice today because the field was
right.
off.
I was so excited. This morning I came and could not walk without sinking in mud, and it dried, and we've drug it, and everything looks good to go. Just praying that the weather holds off until we can get everything finished.
Coach, what does it mean I mean, I know you're the home team, you're the higher seed, but playing in front of those Pine Prairie folks is really something special. We had our first trip down there a couple of days ago. The grill was going, the fans are screaming, the dash stuff. Well, they misspelled dash for Frasch, but what do you do about that? But it was
Oh,
magic down there in Pine Prairie.
it is. It's a wonderful place. Our community gets behind us, and I couldn't be more thankful for all of our dignitaries, our city council. Shout out to my mom, who's on our booster club, and she comes to every one of our games and helps in any way that she can. We have a lot of past, present, and future players that like to come out and they bring their families. And it's just an exciting atmosphere to see the community come together. I like to compare it to Buckeye. As well as Buckeye brings people when they go places, and they know how to bring the hometown community with them, and just that makes all of the difference. The atmosphere in itself can set the tone and win ball games.
Absolutely. Again, Mike.
Coach, what did you think about South Beauregard's home runs against Manny? It looks like they had six home runs
Six.
by under, and they were all by underclassmen on top of that.
I do. I take everything with a grain of salt. I have gotten a few phone calls of different people wanting to give their own opinions, and honestly, we just take it one day at a time. I have a very dominant pitcher, so I have all the confidence in the world in her. And if something happens and they are prepared to hit her, my defense has her back 110%. So as long as our sticks are on, I think that we are prepared to do whatever it takes to make it to Sulphur.
Coach, I absolutely agree with that, and I'll stay away from our pick. Our picks are coming up on this Pine Prairie South Bow Lady K's game in just a little bit, but I've seen so much emotion and being able to experience it firsthand. Josie Vidrine at shortstop is just as fired up as you'll find. And tell me about the excitement and the chemistry of that team you have.
I've said it once and I'll say it again. The Dirty Dozen is just no team I have ever coached before. It started with giving glory to God. Like I told you in one of the interviews, there's a lot behind the 12 and the things that come between it. I'm just going to save it for later so maybe you can have a good story one day.
Right.
But I will say this: their unity, their spirits, the fact that they love each other like sisters. Like, for example, I was like, okay, girls, be there this time tomorrow. And they were like, oh, well, we're going to eat breakfast at one of the girls' house together, and that means a lot to me, that they're learning life lessons, that they're building bonds, that we're not just doing softball here at Pine Prairie. We put God first. We let them lead. They've learned a lot. They continue to learn, and we just want to make them better human beings.
Look, we got your buddy there that's watching on there too. And did you get some tips from Coach Brad at Menard on how to get a field that is submerged, ready to play?
I did not get to call him. I stayed on the phone most of the day trying to find some transportation in case we needed to go to Ward 10 because our field wasn't wet, if our field was too wet. But he's a magical maker over there for sure. I'm just super glad that God above gave us some sunshine to dry up our field. And I hope that he gives us clear skies for tomorrow because we're very excited.
Well, Coach, we're excited about bringing the road show down to Pine Prairie one more time. Certainly are. The hospitality that is down there is second to none. We look forward to being out there with you tomorrow, and we certainly appreciate you taking time to visit with us tonight.
Oh, absolutely. Anytime. We look forward to seeing y'all tomorrow, and we got some hospitality waiting.
Coach Alicia Hebert, the Pine Prairie Lady Panthers, ready to go to work. Freshman sensation Kennedy Ware is set to take the circle tomorrow. Should be a good one. Pine Prairie, South Bow, let's go. There you go. Thank you for joining us too. And Coach, you are Mike. You got to love the excitement that they have down there in Pine Prairie.
Yeah, it's great, and it's such it's a community that's grown so much over the last couple of decades, as we discussed earlier. And I mean, if you want to go ahead and, but did you want to go? I guess we still have a game or two to go in Division II non-select.
We do. We'll get back to them in just a minute. We've got one game to go, and that is Grant making their way down to Bruley, and that's a rematch of an early season big Bruley win.
Yeah, Grant has some really big wins lately. You know, Bruley's going to have to be on guard after they fell behind 4-2 to Albany in the regional round, and the game was delayed for a while because I was periodically checking on my phone, and it eventually resumed and went into the extra innings. And Emma Luke had a walk-off hit to send Bruley into the quarterfinals. And as good as Grant's playing, I mean, Bruley they're one of those teams that they've established themselves this season as one of the best in any division. And I'm not going to pick against Bruley here.
So you go back to that Bruley game with Grant, and in the first inning, Bruley put up 6 runs in that game, a leadoff home run in there. But 4 runs were scored after what would have been the third out. So 4 unearned runs in that inning. They went to put up a few more unearned, had a big home run later on, but Grant banged around. And you know what I said about pitching? Peyton Kirtland, the left-handed pitcher for Grant, is throwing the ball as well as anybody is right now. Can Grant go down to Bruley and knock them off and return to Sulphur? I say yes. Grant Lady Cougars win this one behind Peyton Kirtland, who has been as hot as anybody the last 2 weeks. So there you have another big upset, Lady Cougars of Grant. I'm not a homer. I'm just looking at the details on it. Let's go into Division III, Mike, and look at one of the teams you thought was the greatest, and Kaplan. Yeah, you see what I did there. French Settlement and Kaplan set to do battle in Division III.
This is my favorite division because the top 8 seeds are all capable of winning it all. I mean, and who's to say South Beauregard isn't capable as well? But getting to this game, French Settlement, they dominated number 9 Marksville, which was a matchup I think a lot of people expected to be a good matchup.
I did.
When French Settlement pitcher Miles, when she's been on, she's been really on. And I see this as a low-scoring game, but I like Emma Sherman and the Kaplan Pirates to win. You know, I've been to Kaplan a few times over the years. I saw Sterlington at Kaplan, Gina at Kaplan in the quarterfinals last few years. One thing that stands out to me, I think Coach Brittany LeBeau, she strikes me as a perfectionist. And I'm guessing that I think the Kaplan Pirates, they do all the little things, and that adds up. And that's one reason they're so successful, their attention to detail. I like top-seeded Kaplan in a 2-1, 3-2 type ball game.
Look, I wanted to find a way that French Settlement moves on because, again, I didn't think about them a lot until you were talking about them so much. And so I researched them. I said, wait a minute, this French Settlement team has an opportunity. Well, until Kaplan came to town. And Kaplan at home, I don't think they get beat. I think they move on to Sulphur, and that sets up a pretty good match against probably who you think is the best team in the state. One of them. That's the winner of that Doyle-Sterlington game. So we both take Kaplan in that game, but boy, this is a tough one for you, Sterlington and Doyle.
This is the best matchup, in my opinion, in all the quarterfinals, and it would possibly be the best matchup if we were in the finals week. Last year, Sterlington won 1-0, and both of them started off with some losses this year. Both of them have great basketball teams, and they didn't have some of their players. Both of these teams are up there with the best of the best. I mean, they're up there with Calvary Baptist, in my opinion. Obviously, Sterlington beat Calvary Baptist. So, I mean, there you go there. But I'm going to go with Dole in a road upset. I like the senior leadership: Kylie Savant, Cassidy Rivero, and Shelby Taylor. I'm gonna go with the senior leadership of Dole to get the win. Sterlington. I mean, they may be playing better than anybody in the whole state right now. So, I mean, I think it'll be an upset seeding. It would be an upset seeding wise. Sterlington has a lot of young talent, and they're going to continue to be in this spot in the future. But I'm going to go with the Dole Tigers.
Look, I 100% agree with you. The Dole Tigers are playing some of the best softball in the state of Louisiana right now. I said some. Sterlington is playing some of the best softball in the state of Louisiana right now. You could take a coin and flip it if you want to, but the way Sterlington hits the softball right now, I think that gives them a little bit of edge right here. I love Dole in this game, but I think Sterlington punches their ticket to Sulphur and gets out of there. Sterlington wins this one. Gina and Kinder, Kiet Cooper, she is so awesome. Callie Decker hits the cover off of the ball. Can Gina hold serve, head back to Sulphur, and beat Kinder?
Yeah, Kinder's one of those teams that they have a great record, but they haven't played as many tough teams as Gina has. Gina, I mean, they lost a couple of games late in the regular season, but they were 1-run losses to the likes of Pineville, North Dakota. I saw Gina last year, and they reloaded, and I definitely see Gina winning this game.
The best semifinal matchup. Wait, Doug, we're just in the quarterfinals. I know. The best semifinal matchup is going to be Gina and Pine Prairie. Kiet Cooper against Kennedy Ware. The only way they get there is if Gina takes care of business and knocks off Kinder. I say they do that. Is that a look ahead to my pick again in South Bow and Pine Prairie? Yes, it is. Pine Prairie, Gina in a semifinal matchup. We'll give you that next week. Gina wins. Pine Prairie wins because they're dominant pitching. Kiet Cooper and Kennedy Ware. That's a game you want to watch.
Well, the thing that's interesting to me is, most of the teams that are still alive in Division III could win any division this season. That's how good that the top of the Division III non-select. It's just Dole and Sterlington. I mean, it was a finals matchup last year, and they're, even though they're not seeded 1 and 2 this year, to me, Dole and Sterlington are still the two favorites in this division.
Wow. And I just gave you such a case for Gina and Pine Prairie at the bottom of it. Look, this is one of those, you better make your way to that field when you get down to Frasch. I'm telling you, don't sashay down to Frasch. Don't ease down to Frasch. You better dash for Frasch. And that's going to be a good one. Mike, I know you'll be around that field a lot, as will we in that one. Our final division has come to light tonight, and that is Division 4 of non-select. And this is my pick to win it all in the first game, LaSalle and DeQuincy.
Yeah, I got the slight upset right last week with DeQuincy beating non-DeQuincy beating number 8 Grand Lake. LaSalle advances back to the state tournament with a win over number 9 DeQuincy.
I told you 2 weeks ago that LaSalle was my lock to lift the trophy. Nothing changes here. LaSalle wins that one. Oak Grove. You talked about it 2 weeks ago of what a fantastic matchup this would be. Well, here it is.
Yeah, I mean this one may not have the star power that people might not realize how great this matchup is. It's a really good one. Last year, Oakdale upset Oak Grove, and I like Oakdale to win again. They've got this Oakdale team is the state basketball champions. They have Kaylee Bradley and Imani Young, who were star basketball players. They each had extra base hits in their last win. Jolie West, that's another basketball player. She's hitting over 600. Ainsley Willis is hitting over 500. Well, it's interesting to me. According to what I was looking at on Game Changer, Oakdale has used a lot of pitchers. I know Ainsley Willis was an ace previously in her career. And it looks like she didn't throw in the last game. It looks like Macy Ballard threw in the last game. So I'm interested, kind of interested in learning more about that. But I like Oakdale to win.
So the thing about Oakdale this year is, and it's the same thing in basketball, they get a lot of people involved in what it is that they do. Upset Oak Grove last year. They're poised to do it again only because of seeding. A lot of people don't think that it's going to be an upset, though, if Oakdale beats Oak Grove. But wait a minute. Oak Grove remembers that little game from last year. They remember all of this. And this year, the team from Northeast Louisiana says, I don't think so. And they take care of Oakdale. Oak Grove moves on. Logansport and Montgomery, what say you?
This is a rematch from the regular season. Logansport won that one 13-3. And so I'm kind of up in the air on this one. I'm going to go with the favorite seed. I'm going to go with Logansport to win.
Look, this is one of those, Mike, that I agree. These two teams are so solid, and it's such a good matchup. You can take out the old coin and give it I don't have my coin anymore. So, but anyway, the dramatics go away when I don't have my coin on there to flip. Logansport, Montgomery, Logansport. You said Logansport?
I said Logansport. They won in the regular season, so I'm going to go with them to win again.
Then I say Montgomery, just because I've got to get on the different side of it. I could absolutely be wrong in this one, but it's okay. I like Montgomery in this game. And that brings us, yes, it does, to the final pick of the night, Mangum and Lakeside. Lead us off.
Well, this is the game where I don't know much about either team. Lakeside has been consistently great all season in terms of a wins and losses standpoint. They're playing at home. I'm going to go with the team out of Sibley.
Look, you could look back at all of this, Lakeside, Mangum. I just, man, Lakeside's played well all year long, and I like Lakeside in this one. They'll go into the semifinals. They'll make their way to Sulphur, and they'll play against that Montgomery team on May the 2nd down in Sulphur at Frasch Park. I really believe that. And that brings us to the end of our picks. Mike, man, as always, you've done a tremendous job, and you've shown that you know way more about softball than I know.
I don't think so. I don't think so. Man, but yeah, we definitely differed on more picks this week, so it will be interesting to compare when we get done. I mean, and I know I'm a broken record, but man, that it's just really difficult to swallow that one is not going to make it to Sulphur out of Dole and Sterlington. I mean, they're two such good teams.
Look, that is, and that's one of those games you got. Are you going to go or be able to go to that?
Oh, no. I don't travel. You mean to Sterlington? Oh, no.
Yes.
It's
just right up the road from me.
Well, look, I live in New Iberia. I'm not much of a driver. And so Acadiana, there's no shortcut from New Iberia to Acadiana. So I went to cover the Acadiana Dominican game, and we got delayed by weather for a few hours, and then had to come back the next day. That's a lot of driving to me. So no, I won't be going to Sterlington anytime soon.
So tell us what the weekend looks like for Mike Coppage.
Well, I was supposed to cover Catholic New Iberia baseball versus Newman tonight. It got postponed with a lot of games got postponed. Tomorrow I'm attending Jack Besh NFL draft party, and Saturday I'm covering hopefully just game 2 of St. Thomas More and St. Augustine. You know, if what, you know, it could be a doubleheader, which is like stretch. Like I said, I get tired easy, so if a doubleheader will stretch my capabilities, but that's the way my weekend is shaping up. So I'm gonna be watching. I'm gonna be scoreboard watching while I'm at the Jack Besh event tomorrow.
Look, that has got to be so cool. Jack Bech, one of the great stories there out of Lafayette, St. Thomas More, down to LSU, over to TCU, and just exploded over there. What's his thoughts? What's he thinking?
Well, I don't know. You know, I only keep up with high school sports these days because even then I make a bunch of mistakes and I'll put a team in the wrong class or select non-select will get me, or I have a tendency to put Fairview in Class C for some reason when I'm typing stuff and then I don't catch it. So I don't. I'm going to be I'll cram in a little due diligence before I go to the event, but I'm guessing he's going to be picked in the second round, and I did get to cover him in high school, and I'll probably splurge and get a Jack Bech jersey when he does get drafted.
There you go. Looking forward to that. We will have a lot of coverage for you. Of course, we cover ASL Athletics, the Association of Christian Educators of Louisiana. That's the homeschool group. They're playing their baseball and softball championships up in central Louisiana. So we'll cover that. Tomorrow night, 446 Sports will be live out at Pine Prairie versus South Beauregard. The Lady K's come to town to face the Lady Panthers. We talked to Coach Alicia Hebert about that, of course, and she was so excited. They were working on the field still tonight. And then Saturday, we make the trip up to Monroe, where we will have that St. Fred's Lady Warriors game against the Lady Eagles of Menard. So we've got a full slate of action for you on 446 Sports, and we invite you to tune in to those games.
I'll be checking your page out, and I'll be scoreboard watching on Game Changer to see how these softball games are going.
Look, we're excited about it too. Of course, a reminder that our coverage has been brought to you by Melder's Trailer Sales. If you're looking for trailers, even utility trailers, they can take care of that for you. Mike Coppage out of Cleans Corner, out of Acadiana, we appreciate you. Tell them one more time before we get out of here where they can find you.
I have a lot of free articles on Louisiana High School on SI. My name's Mike Coppage, and so just check out my articles if you get a chance. We try to rank the teams in the major sports and pick out some ones for Athlete of the Week this week, and do a little other stuff besides that. So check me out on social media. I'm on Twitter /X, whatever you want to call it, and Facebook.
Well, Mike, it's been a pleasure, my friend, as always, to visit with you like we've done for each round of this. Our buddy Mike from the North Shore Prep Report is somewhere stuck in Houston, I think, is what the latest report that we got from him on that was. But the dash for Frasch heats up. The next time we talk, Mike, it will be sulfur time. We'll know that the final teams are down there, and we'll know who's going to have the right to play for the state title. So looking forward to that, my friend. For my buddy Mike Coppage and Chuck Perkins back in the studio that's taking care of all of that for you, it's been a blast tonight. We'll see you down the road. I am Doug Gann. God bless you all, and good night.